The playground at Riverside Elementary was buzzing with the usual afternoon chaos when Emma Rodriguez heard the scream that would change everything. She had been sitting on the wooden bench grading papers from her third-grade class while keeping one eye on her 5-year-old son, Jamie, as he navigated the jungle gym with the fearless confidence only children possess. The scream cut through the air like a knife, and Emma's head snapped up instantly. Her heart stopped when she saw Jamie lying motionless at the bottom of the slide, his small body crumpled in an unnatural position. The red plastic slide that had brought him so much joy moments before now seemed like a monster that had swallowed her world whole. Jamie. Emma dropped her papers and ran across the playground, her sandals slipping on the wood chips.
Other parents
were already gathering around, their faces painted with the universal expression of parental concern mixed with relief that it wasn't their child. Jamie was conscious but crying, his left arm bent at an angle that made Emma's stomach lurch. His tear-streaked face was pale, and he kept trying to move his arm before wincing and crying harder. "Mommy, it hurts," he whimpered, his brown eyes wide with pain and confusion. Emma knelt beside him, her nursing training from years ago kicking, and despite her panic, she could see the obvious deformity in his forearm and knew immediately that this was more than a simple bruise. "I know, baby. Mommy's here. We're going to get you help right now," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her chest. The rush to safety misses. Patterson, another mother from Jamie's class, appeared beside them. "Emma, I'll drive you to the hospital. My car is right here." Emma nodded gratefully, carefully scooping Jamie into her arms. He was getting heavy at 5 years old, but adrenaline made him feel weightless. She held him close, feeling his warm breath against her neck as he buried his face in her shoulder. The 10-minute drive to Riverside General felt like an eternity. Jamie had stopped crying but was making small whimpering sounds that broke Emma's heart. She kept whispering reassurances, stroking his dark hair that was so much like her own. "The doctors are going to fix you up, sweetheart. You're going to be just like new," she promised. Though her own hands were shaking, the emergency room entrance loomed ahead, and Emma felt a familiar knot in her stomach. She hadn't been in this hospital since Jamie was born 5.5 years ago. Too many memories lived in these walls, memories she had spent years trying to forget. Familiar territory, the pediatric emergency department was organized. Chaos, children of various ages sat with worried parents, some crying, others surprisingly calm. The smell of antiseptic and the sound of medical equipment beeped a rhythm that Emma remembered all too well from her brief stint as a nursing student. The triage nurse, a kind-faced woman with graying hair, took one look at Jamie's arm and fast-tracked them through the initial screening. Within minutes, they were in a treatment room, and Emma was helping Jamie onto the examination table while trying to keep him calm. "The doctor will be right in," the nurse assured them before pulling the curtain closed. Emma sat in the plastic chair beside the table, holding Jamie's good hand. She studied his face, seeing so much of herself in his features, but also traces of someone else. Someone she had loved deeply and lost completely. Jamie's eyes were starting to droop from exhaustion and pain. When they heard footsteps approaching, Emma looked toward the curtain, expecting to see an older physician. Maybe someone she didn't know who could just fix her son's arm and send them home. Instead, the curtain parted to reveal a man who made time stop completely. Ghost from the past DR. Nathan Cross stepped into the room reading from a clipboard, his dark hair slightly mussed from a long shift. He wore the standard white coat over scrubs, a stethoscope draped around his neck. When he looked up and saw Emma, the clipboard slipped from his fingers and clattered to the floor. "Emma," he breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. The years melted away in an instant. Nathan looked older, more mature, with fine lines around his eyes that spoke of long hours and difficult decisions. His shoulders were broader, his presence more commanding, but those green eyes were exactly as she remembered them. Eyes that had once looked at her with such love and hope for the future. "Hello, Nathan," Emma managed, her voice surprisingly steady. Jamie looked between them with curiosity, sensing the tension, but not understanding it. "Mommy, is this the doctor who's going to fix my arm?" Nathan's gaze shifted to Jamie, and Emma watched as recognition dawned in his features. The child's face, while clearly resembling Emma, held unmistakable traces of Nathan's own features. The same stubborn chin, the same thick eyelashes, the same way of tilting his head when he was thinking.
But, yes.
Sweetheart, Emma said quickly. This is Dr. Cross. He's going to take very good care of you. Nathan seemed to shake himself back to reality. He picked up the clipboard and moved closer to the examination table, his professional mask sliding into place despite the obvious shock. Hello there, Jamie. I'm Dr. Cross. Can you tell me what happened? Jamie launched into an animated explanation of how he had been pretending to be a superhero sliding down to save the world when he fell off the side of the slide and landed on his arm. Nathan listened intently, asking gentle questions while carefully examining the injured limb. Emma watched Nathan work, remembering how passionate he had been about becoming a doctor when they were together in college. She had supported his dreams, even when it meant long hours apart, even when it meant he would have to move away from medical school. She had been willing to wait to follow him anywhere until everything fell apart. Professional distance? It looks like we have a fracture here, Nathan said, his voice taking on the calm, reassuring tone that all good pediatric doctors master. We're going to need to take some x-rays to see exactly what we're dealing with, but I think we can get you fixed up good as new. Jamie perked up at this news. Will I get a cast? My friend Tommy had a cast and everyone got to sign it. Nathan smiled, and Emma felt her heart clench at the familiar expression. Very likely. What's your favorite color? Blue, like Superman's cape. Blue. It is then. We'll get you the best blue cast in the whole hospital. A technician arrived to take Jamie for x-rays, and Emma started to follow, but Nathan gently touched her arm. Could we talk for just a moment while they're getting the images? He asked quietly. Emma hesitated, then nodded. She kissed Jamie's forehead and promised she would be right outside the x-ray room. Once they were alone in the hallway, the weight of 6 years crashed down between them. Nathan ran his hand through his hair, a gesture Emma remembered from when he was nervous or overwhelmed. I can't believe you're here, he said finally. Can't believe you're here either. When did you come back to Riverside? About 2 years ago? I finished my residency in pediatric emergency medicine, and they offered me a position here. He paused, studying her face. You look good, Emma. Really good? She felt heat rise in her. Cheeks, thank you. You look good too. Became exactly what you wanted to be. An awkward silence stretched between them, filled with all the words they had never said to each other. Nathan started, then stopped, seeming to struggle with the question. Emma knew what he was asking, and her heart began to race. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind 1,000 times over the years, but now that it was here, she felt completely unprepared. Nathan, Dr. Cross? The technician's voice interrupted them. We're ready for you to look at the x-rays. Nathan nodded, his eyes never leaving Emma's face. We'll continue this conversation after I take care of Jamie, okay? Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. The diagnosis, the x-rays showed a clean break in both the radius and ulna bones of Jamie's left forearm. Nathan explained that it was a common childhood injury, and that with proper casting and care, it would heal completely in about 6 weeks. Jamie was fascinated by the x-ray images, asking dozens of questions about bones and how they healed. Nathan answered each one patiently, his natural way with children evident in every interaction. Emma watched the two of them together, felt a mixture of joy and terror. Jamie was responding to Nathan in a way that seemed almost instinctive, as if some part of him recognized a connection he couldn't understand. The casting process took about 30 minutes. Nathan worked carefully, wrapping Jamie's arm in the bright blue material while telling him stories about other brave children he had treated. Jamie hung on every word, completely charmed by the doctor's attention. There we go, Superman, Nathan said as he finished the cast. You're all set to save the world again, but maybe stick to ground-level rescues for a while. Jamie giggled and examined his new blue armor with obvious pride as they prepared to leave. Nathan handed Emma a card with his direct number written on the back. Call me if you have any concerns about the healing process, he said formally, but his eyes conveyed a different message entirely. Emma took the card, their fingers brushing briefly. The contact sent electricity through her entire body, just as it had years ago. "Thank you for taking such good care of him," she said. Nathan glanced at Jamie, who was showing his cast to a passing nurse, then back at Emma. "He's an amazing kid," he said quietly. "You've done a wonderful job raising him." The praise should have felt good, but instead, it made Emma's chest tight with guilt and regret. As they walked toward the exit, Jamie turned and waved at Nathan with his good arm. "By Dr. Cross. Thanks for my supercast." Nathan waved back, but his eyes were on Emma, full of questions that demanded answers. Emma knew this wasn't over. In fact, it was just the beginning of a conversation that would change all their lives forever. 3 days after the hospital visit, Emma's phone buzzed with a text message that made her hands tremble. It was from Nathan. "Can we meet? There are things we need to discuss. Jamie deserves the truth." Emma stared at the message while Jamie played quietly in the living room, his blue cast already decorated with stickers and drawings from his classmates. She had been dreading this moment since they left the hospital. Knowing that Nathan's sharp mind would put the pieces together, her best friend Maria knocked on the door just as Emma was trying to figure out how to respond. Maria had been Emma's anchor through everything: the pregnancy, the birth, the sleepless nights, and all the moments when Emma wondered if she had made the right choice. "You look terrible," Maria said bluntly as she entered, carrying coffee and pastries from their favorite bakery. "Have you been sleeping at all?" Emma shook her head, sinking onto the couch. "He knows, Maria. I could see it in his eyes at the hospital. Nathan knows Jamie is his son." Maria sat beside her, wrapping an arm around Emma's shoulders. "Maybe it's time. You've carried this secret for 6 years. Don't you think Nathan has the right to know he's a father? What about Jamie's right too? Have a stable life?" Emma countered, tears threatening to spill. "Nathan left once. He chose his career over us. What happens when he decides medicine is more important than being a father?" The coffee shop confrontation against her better judgment, Emma agreed to. "Meet Nathan at Riverside Caf, a small place downtown where they used to study together in college." She arranged for Maria to watch Jamie. Telling him only that Mommy had to run an errand, Nathan was already there when she arrived. Sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee, he stood when he saw her, and Emma was struck again by how much he had changed. There was a confidence about him now, a sense of purpose that came from years of saving lives and making difficult decisions. "Thank you for coming," he said as she sat down. Emma wrapped her hands around the warm mug, using it as an anchor. "Nathan, before you say anything, I want you to understand that I did what I thought was best." "For who?" His voice was gentle but firm. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you made a decision that affected all 3 of us without giving me a choice." The hurt in his eyes was almost unbearable. Emma had imagined this conversation countless times, but she had never fully prepared for the pain she would see in Nathan's face. "You had already made your choice," she said quietly. "You chose medical school. You chose a future that didn't include me." Nathan leaned forward, his hands flat on the table. "Emma, I was 22 years old and terrified. Thought I was doing the right thing by focusing on my studies, by not asking you to wait for me while I figured out my life. I never stopped loving you." The admission hung between them like a bridge neither was sure they should cross. "The truth unfolds. When did you find out you were pregnant?" Nathan asked. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. 2 weeks after you left for medical school. Kept thinking I should tell you, but every time I called you sounded so stressed, so overwhelmed. You talked about how demanding the program was, how you barely had time to sleep. How could I add a baby to that? So you decided for both of us. I decided to protect you from having to choose between your dreams and your responsibilities. And I decided to protect Jamie from having a father who might resent him for derailing his career." Nathan was quiet for a long moment, processing her words. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "Do you know what the hardest part of medical school was? It wasn't the long hours or the difficult cases. It was going to bed every night knowing I had lost the best thing that ever happened to me. It was wondering if you were happy, if you had found someone else, if you ever thought about what we could have been." Emma felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "I thought about it every day, especially when Jamie started asking questions about his father." "What did you tell him?" "That his daddy lived far away and couldn't be with us." but that he would have loved Jamie very much if he could have stayed. Nathan's composure finally cracked. He put his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking slightly. I've missed everything. His first steps, his first words, birthdays, bedtime stories. I've missed 5 years of my son's life. A father's awakening that evening. Nathan sat in his apartment, staring at a photo he had taken from his phone during Jamie's treatment. In the picture, Jamie was grinning despite his pain, showing off his blue cast like it was a trophy. Could see himself in the child's smile, in the way he held his head, in the curiosity that sparked in his eyes. His colleague, Dr. Sophia Chen, found him there when she stopped by to drop off some case files. You look like someone who just discovered he won the lottery and lost his wallet at the same time, Sophia observed, settling into the chair across from him. Nathan and Sophia had worked together for 2 years and had developed a close friendship, built on mutual respect and shared dedication to their young patients. She was one of the few people who knew about his past relationship with Emma. Remember Emma, the woman I told you about from college? Nathan said without looking up from. The photo, the one who got away? She didn't get away. She came to the ER 3 days ago with her son. Sophia, he's my son. I know it sounds crazy, but when I looked at him, it was like looking at myself at that age. Sophia studied the photo over his shoulder. Have you talked to Emma about it? We met today. She confirmed what I already knew in my heart. Nathan set the phone down and looked at his friend. I don't know how to be a father, Sophia. I don't know how to be part of a family. The same way you learn to be a doctor, she said simply. One day at a time, with lots of mistakes, and hopefully, more successes than failures. The medical perspective, meanwhile, Emma was having her own crisis of conscience. After putting Jamie to bed, she sat at her kitchen table grading papers, but her mind kept wandering to Nathan's words at the cafe. Had she really been protecting Jamie, or had she been protecting herself from the possibility of being hurt again? Her sister Rosa called, just as Emma was reaching for her 3rd cup of coffee. You sound exhausted, Rosa said without preamble. What's going on? Emma found herself telling Rosa everything about the accident. Seeing Nathan at the hospital, their conversation that afternoon. Rosa listened without interruption, letting Emma pour out 6 years of guilt and uncertainty. Emma, Rosa said, when she finished, I love you, but you made a terrible mistake. Not just for Nathan's sake, but for Jamie's. That little boy deserves to know his father, and Nathan deserves the chance to prove he can be the man Jamie needs. What if he breaks Jamie's heart? What if he decides being a father is too complicated and walks away again? Then you'll deal with it together, as a family should. But what if he doesn't? What if he's exactly the father Jamie needs, and you've been keeping them apart for nothing? The proposal the next morning, Nathan appeared at Emma's door with a proposal. That surprised her. He wasn't demanding immediate access to Jamie or threatening legal action. Instead, he suggested they start slowly, letting him spend time with Jamie in casual settings where the boy would feel comfortable. I want to earn the right to be his father, Nathan said as they sat on Emma's front porch while Jamie played in the backyard. I know I can't make up for the years I've missed, but I want to be part of his future if you'll let me. Emma watched Jamie through the window, seeing him laugh as he tried to throw a ball with his good arm. He's been asking more questions lately. About his father? I think part of him knows something is missing. What kind of questions? Whether his daddy is tall like him, whether he likes dinosaurs, whether he's ever coming home. Emma's voice caught on the last words. I've been running. Out of ways to explain your absence without lying to him? Nathan was quiet for a moment, watching his son play. I have an idea, but I need you to trust me. Building bridges. Nathan's idea was simple, but brilliant. He suggested that Emma bring Jamie to the hospital's monthly children's health fair, where Nathan volunteered to teach kids about taking care of their bodies. It would give him a chance to interact with Jamie in a natural, non-threatening environment. Jamie was thrilled at the prospect of going back to the hospital to see the nice doctor who gave him the supercast. Emma felt nervous but agreed, recognizing that Nathan was trying to respect her concerns, while still finding a way to connect with his son. The health fair was held in the hospital's main lobby, transformed with colorful banners and interactive stations. Children rotated through different activities, learning about nutrition, practicing proper hand washing, and getting their height and weight measured on special growth charts. Nathan's station was the most popular. He had set up a display about bones and healing, complete with plastic skeletons and X-ray images. Jamie gravitated toward it immediately, fascinated by the chance to show off his cast and share his story. With other children, Emma watched from a distance as Nathan knelt down to Jamie's level, explaining how bones grew stronger after they healed. There was something natural about their interaction, as if some invisible thread connected them beyond genetics. "He's good with him," Dr. Sophia Chen said, appearing beside Emma. "Nathan's been talking about your son nonstop since the accident. I don't think I've ever seen him this invested in anything outside of medicine." Emma turned to study the woman beside her. Sophia was attractive and clearly intelligent, with kind eyes and an easy smile. "Are you and Nathan friends and colleagues?" "Nothing more," Sophia said with a laugh. "Though I'll admit I had hopes at one point. But it's clear his heart belongs to someone else. Has for years, apparently." The comment left Emma feeling unsettled in ways. She didn't want to examine too closely the moment of truth as the health fair wound down. Jamie approached Nathan with a serious expression that Emma recognized as his thinking face. "Ah, Dr. Cross," Jamie said, tugging on Nathan's coat. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, buddy. What's on your mind? Do you have any kids?" Nathan glanced at Emma, who had moved closer to hear the conversation. His answer would set the tone for everything that came after. "You know what, Jamie? I'm just learning that I might have a son who's very special to me. Someone brave and smart and funny, just like you." Jamie's eyes widened. "Really? What's his name?" Nathan smiled, his eyes never leaving Jamie's face. "His name is Jamie Rodriguez, and he has the coolest blue cast I've ever seen." Emma watched as understanding dawned in her son's face. Jamie looked between Nathan and Emma, his young mind working to process this revelation. "Are you my daddy?" Jamie asked quietly. Nathan knelt down, so they were eye to eye. "Yes, Jamie. I'm your daddy. I'm sorry it took me so long to find you." Jamie thought about this for a moment, then threw his good arm around Nathan's neck in a fierce hug that brought tears to both adults' eyes. "I knew it," Jamie whispered against Nathan's shoulder. "I knew my daddy would come home." The weeks following Jamie's discovery transformed their small world in ways Emma never anticipated. Nathan kept his promise to take things slowly, but his commitment to being present in Jamie's life was evident in every gesture. He showed up to Jamie's soccer practice, learned the names of all his favorite dinosaurs, and spent Saturday mornings teaching him to throw a football with his good arm. Emma found herself caught between gratitude and fear. Nathan was everything. She had hoped he would be as a father, patient, engaged, and genuinely delighted by his son's company. But she couldn't shake the worry that this happiness was temporary, that something would happen to shatter the fragile family they were building. Tess came sooner than expected when Nathan's mother, Helen Cross, announced she was coming for a visit. Helen had never approved of Emma during their college relationship, viewing her as a distraction from Nathan's studies. Emma dreaded facing the woman who had once told her that truly loving Nathan meant letting him go, as she doesn't know about. "Jamie yet?" Nathan explained as they sat on Emma's porch after putting Jamie to bed. "I wanted to tell her in person." Emma pulled her sweater tighter against the evening chill. "How do you think she'll react?" "Honestly, I think she'll be shocked, probably angry that we kept it from her. But once she meets Jamie, she'll love him. How could she not?" Emma wished she shared his confidence. The grandmother's arrival, Helen Cross, arrived on a Thursday afternoon, elegant and composed as Emma remembered. She had aged gracefully, her silver hair perfectly styled, and her posture still commanding respect. Nathan had arranged for them to meet at his apartment first. Wanting to break the news privately, Emma waited at home with Jamie, who was excited about meeting his grandmother, but didn't fully understand the complexity of the situation. When Nathan called an hour later, his voice was strained. "How did it go?" Emma asked. "She wants to meet you both tonight, Emma. She's processing. This is a lot for her to take in." That evening, Emma dressed Jamie in his nicest shirt and tried to prepare him for meeting Nathan's mother. She explained that Grandma Helen might seem serious at first, but that she loved Nathan very much and would love Jamie too. Nathan's apartment was immaculate, clearly prepared for his mother's visit. Helen sat in the living room, her back straight and her hands folded in her lap. When Emma entered with Jamie, Helen's composure cracked for just a moment as she took in the child's appearance. "My goodness," she whispered. "He looks just like Nathan did at that age." Jamie, unaware of the tension in the room, walked directly to Helen with the fearless curiosity of childhood. "Hi, Grandma Helen. Daddy says you live far away. You like dinosaurs?" "I have a triceratops, that's my favorite." Helen's careful reserve melted as Jamie climbed onto the couch beside her and began showing her his cast, now covered with signatures, and drawings from friends and classmates. Emma watched as the older woman's face softened, her questions becoming genuinely interested rather than politely distant. Family dynamics later, after Jamie had fallen asleep on Nathan's couch, Helen and Emma found themselves alone in the kitchen, while Nathan carried their son to the bedroom. "I owe you an apology," Helen said without preamble. "Years ago, I said some things to you that were unfair and unkind. I thought I was protecting Nathan's future, but I was really just afraid of losing him." Emma was surprised by the directness. "Of the admission, you were trying to be a good mother. I understand that now, having Jamie. But I was wrong. And because of my interference, because of the pressure I put on Nathan to focus solely on his career, I missed the first 5 years of my grandson's life. We all did." Helen's voice carried genuine regret, and Emma felt some of the old resentment begin to dissolve. "Jamie is a wonderful boy," Helen continued. "You've raised him beautifully, Emma. Nathan tells me you've been doing it alone all this time. I had help from my family and friends, but yes, it's been just Jamie and me." Helen studied Emma's face carefully. "Do you still love my son?" The question caught Emma off guard. She'd been so focused on Nathan's relationship with Jamie that she hadn't allowed herself to examine her own feelings for him. "I never stopped loving him," Emma admitted quietly. "But love isn't always enough. We're different people now than we were in college, are you? Because from what I've observed tonight, you two still look at each other the same way you did 6 years ago." The DNA test decision, despite the obvious family resemblance and Emma's confirmation, Nathan suggested. They do a DNA test to make everything official. It wasn't that he doubted Jamie was his son, but he wanted legal documentation for things like insurance, medical decisions, and potential custody arrangements down the line, Emma agreed. Though the clinical nature of the process felt strange after the emotional revelations of recent weeks, they went to Nathan's hospital, where a simple cheek swab from both Nathan and Jamie provided the necessary samples. "How long until we get results?" Emma asked the lab technician. "Usually 3 to 5 business days for paternity testing," the woman replied. Dr. Cross requested a rush, so probably by Monday. Jamie, who had been fascinated by the swabbing process, asked if this meant he was going to be extra official as Nathan's son. Nathan laughed and assured him that he was already as official as anyone could be. Roses. Prospective Emma's sister Rosa arrived that weekend for her monthly visit, bringing her usual blend of practical advice and sisterly concern. She had been Emma's strongest supporter during the pregnancy and Jamie's early years, and Emma valued her opinion above almost anyone else's. Rosa took one look at Nathan playing catch with Jamie in the backyard and pulled Emma aside. "Okay, I need to know what you're thinking," Rosa said as they watched through the kitchen window, "because that man is clearly head over heels for both of you, and you look happier than I've seen you in years." Emma sighed, leaning against the counter. "I'm terrified, Rosa. What if this is just novelty for him? What if the reality of being a parent every day, dealing with tantrums and sick days and homework battles, is more than he bargained for? If it's not, what if he's exactly the partner and father you and Jamie need? I can't risk Jamie getting hurt. He's already so attached to Nathan. If this doesn't work out..." Rosa turned from the window to face her sister directly. "Emma, you can't protect Jamie from every possible hurt in life, but you can give him the gift of a father who loves him. Look at them together. That's not obligation or guilt. It's pure joy." The DNA test results arrived on a Tuesday morning via secure email. Nathan called Emma immediately, though they both knew what the results would say. "99.99% probability of paternity," Nathan said, and Emma could hear the smile in his voice. "Jamie is officially, scientifically, legally my son. A. Decided to share the news with Jamie together, though they kept the explanation simple. Emma made his favorite pancakes for breakfast while Nathan arrived with a small gift. A picture frame with "World's Best Son" engraved on it. "Jamie, we got the results from those tests we did at the hospital," Emma began as they sat around the kitchen table. "The ones where we spit in the tubes?" Jamie asked, more interested in his pancakes than the conversation. "Those are the ones," Nathan said, "and they confirmed what we already knew in our hearts. I am definitely your daddy in every official way possible." Jamie considered this information while chewing thoughtfully. "Does this mean I can call you Daddy instead of Dr. Cross now?" Nathan's eyes filled with tears. "I would love that more than anything in the world." "Okay, Daddy Ken." "You passed the syrup?" The casual acceptance of their new relationship was so typically Jamie. Both adults laughed through their tears. Building a future over the following months, they slowly built routines that included all three of them. Nathan would stop by most mornings before work to have coffee with Emma and walk Jamie to school. Evenings often found him at Emma's house, helping with homework or reading bedtime stories. They were careful not to rush into anything romantic, focusing instead on establishing Nathan's relationship with Jamie and figuring out how to co-parent effectively. But the attraction that had drawn them together in college was still there, simmering beneath the surface of their careful friendship. The breakthrough came on a rainy Saturday afternoon when Jamie was napping and Emma and Nathan found themselves alone on the couch watching an old movie they had loved in college. Without thinking, Emma curled up against Nathan's side, and he wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "This feels right," Nathan said quietly, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "It does," Emma agreed, allowing herself to relax fully for the first time in years. "But I'm still scared." "So am I, but maybe we can be scared together this time, instead of running away from each other." The proposal 6 months after that first day in the emergency room, Nathan had become a fixture in their lives. He attended parent-teacher conferences, took Jamie to his soccer games, and spent most weekends helping Emma with household projects while Jamie supervised from his perch on the couch. Emma's birthday fell on a Thursday. Nathan offered to cook dinner for the three of them. She came home from work to find candles lit, flowers on the table, and the smell of her favorite pasta dish filling the air. "What's all this?" she asked, hanging up her coat. "Daddy said it was your birthday, and we needed to make it special," Jamie announced, running to hug her legs. "I helped make dessert." During dinner, Nathan seemed nervous in a way that made Emma's heart race. When they finished eating and Jamie went to play in the living room, Nathan reached across the table and took Emma's hands. "Emma, these past months have been the happiest of my life. Not just because I found out I'm Jamie's father, but because I got a second chance with you." He pulled a small box from his pocket, and Emma's breath caught. "I know we're doing this backward. Usually people get married before they have children together. But I love you, and I love Jamie, and I want us to be a real family. Will you marry me?" Emma stared at the ring, a simple, elegant solitaire that was exactly her style, and felt tears streaming down her face. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, absolutely." "Yes," Jamie's voice carried from the living room. "Did she say yes, Daddy? Can I come see the ring now?" He laughed as Jamie barreled into the kitchen, climbing onto Emma's lap to examine the engagement ring with scientific interest. "Does this mean you're going to live here all the time now, Daddy?" Jamie asked. "If that's okay with you," Nathan replied. "It's definitely okay with me. Can we get a dog too?" The wedding, they were married 3 months later in a small ceremony at the Riverside Community Center, with close family and friends in attendance. Jamie served as ring bearer, taking his job very seriously and walking down the aisle with careful, measured steps. Emma wore a simple white dress that made her look radiant, and Nathan couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked toward him. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union, Jamie raised his hand and announced, "I object to not having cake yet," which broke the tension and had everyone laughing. During their vows, both Emma and Nathan referenced their journey back to each other and their commitment to being the family Jamie deserved. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when Nathan promised to love Emma through emergency rooms and everyday moments. through the chaos of parenting and the quiet of growing old together. After the ceremony, as they danced to their first song, as a married couple, Emma marveled at how perfectly everything had worked out. "No regrets?" Nathan asked, spinning her gently. "Only that it took us so long to get here," Emma replied, standing on her toes to kiss her husband. From across the dance floor, Jamie watched his parents with satisfaction, then went back to eating cake with his new grandmother, Helen, who had completely fallen under his spell and was already planning elaborate Christmas gifts. Full circle 1 year later. Emma sat in the same emergency room where their story had begun, but this time she was there as Nathan's wife, bringing him coffee during a particularly busy shift. Jamie, now 6.5, was at school, his broken arm long healed and his cast a distant memory. "Dr. Cross," one of the nurses called. "We have a pediatric fracture coming in. Playground accident." Emma watched Nathan spring into action, grabbing his stethoscope and heading toward the treatment rooms. He paused at the door and looked back at her. "See you at home tonight?" he asked, his eyes warm with love and contentment. "We'll be waiting," Emma replied, her heart full of gratitude for the accident that had brought them back together, as Nathan disappeared into the treatment room to help another family in crisis. Emma reflected on how dramatically their lives had changed. Jamie now had a father who adored him. Emma had the love she had never stopped hoping for. And Nathan had the family he never knew he was missing. Sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected places. Had to break something before it could heal stronger than before. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, love really did find a way to bring you home.